everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be reading books out of my comfort zone. There's quite a lot of books on my TBR that I've owned for quite a long time. Some of them are very new, but a lot of these I've owned for a long time and I've been putting them off over and over again because they're just out of my comfort zone. But we're not doing that this year. We are getting through this physical TBR. So I'm going to be reading, I'm going to try and read 4 books in this video. I don't know if I'll get to all of them, but I'm going to aim to read 4. I won't tell you them now just in case I don't get to them. I'll introduce each book as I end up reading it. But I think the first one, I don't know. I'm not going to say. I'll pop in later when I actually start reading because I've got a few things to do first. But yeah, I'm going to be reading some genres in this video that I don't usually read. We've got some dark academia, we've got some paranormal, we've got some literary fiction. So we've got a few different genres. If you don't know, if you've never watched my videos before, I typically am a romance and a fantasy person with a very tiny sprinkling of sci-fi. By that I mean literally just the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. So I very much kind of stick within those genres usually. I used to read a lot of dystopia and historical fiction, but for the last couple of years I've very much been in a romance fantasy kind of era. But we're going to branch out of that this year, and we're going to get through these books on my physical TBR. So, as I said, I'll pop back in a bit. I'm going to go have some dinner, edit a couple of videos, and then we'll decide which book we're going to start with for this video in particular. Excuse the appearance, my hair needs a wash. We're just going to ignore it. So book number 1 for this video is going to be Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I am an Ali Hazelwood girl through and through. That's not a question. But what I am not is a paranormal girl. Like, I don't really like vampire books at all. I've never really read much werewolf stuff. I've only really read Twilight with like werewolves in, and then I read a couple of vampire books and I really didn't like them. So I am nervous. Hello everyone, I come to you with my slicked back. You can't even see the bun. It is in a bun. It's hair wash day, so my hair is just slicked back with a hair mask in for a bit before I wash it. But anyway, I'm not that far into Bride. Let me go grab it actually and show you how far in I am. I'm that far in, so not too far. What page am I on? Page 62. And guys, I'm loving it. Like, I had high hopes in the sense that it's Ali Hazelwood and I love Ali Hazelwood. So I did expect to like it, but like, oh my god, I actually love it. And like the paranormal stuff isn't putting me off, which I thought it would. I thought I would love it despite the paranormal. But I actually like the paranormal bits, which again is very out of my comfort zone. I've read quite a few paranormal books and I didn't really like any of them. So this is kind of like, oh. Like, even though I thought I would like part of it, I'm actually literally loving it. So that's great. And I've also started listening to Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, which is a sci-fi book. I've not read much sci-fi at all. Pretty much the only sci-fi series I've read is the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson, and that is a YA series set in space. It's a very different... Ready Player One is more like dystopia sci-fi. It's a very different kind of sci-fi, and it is much more intimidating to me than like something like Skyward is. So again, still very out of my comfort zone. I've never read anything like Ready Player One before, with like the whole video game vibe and stuff. I've never read anything like it, and I'm listening to that on audio. So whenever I've got time to physically read, I'm going to read Bride, and then whenever I've got to do stuff around the house, I'm going to listen to Ready Player One. So I've got them kind of both at the same time for different scenarios. I need to pop out now, so I'm going to go. And then I'll check back in with you later when I've read a bit more of either book, and I'll obviously keep you updated on both of them and how they're going. But I've not listened to much of Ready Player One. I'm nearly an hour into the audiobook, and again, I'm actually quite enjoying it. I'm definitely very intrigued by it. It's very different, as I said, to anything I've read before, but I am very much enjoying it. Hello everyone, I've now finished Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I'm a little bit stuck on my rating, but it's at least a 4.5. I'm kind of tempted to give it a 5-star. Like, it's kind of giving 5-star feels. I just literally loved it. Like, I thought I'd like it because it's Ali Hazelwood, but I actually loved it, like, so much. It was so good. The paranormal aspects were just so well weaved into the story. There was mystery in there, there was romance, like, it was just so good. And it felt just like so weirdly comforting. Even though I was reading about like literal vampires and wolves, it just felt so comforting. Like, it's one of those books I feel like I could reread or just like go back in and out of to feel like comforted, like a comfort book, which is weird because I'm not a paranormal person, as I keep saying. So to have like a paranormal book as one of my comfort books is wild, but it was just so good. I've not made any more progress with Ready Player One. I've not listened to any more of that because I've just been so like in Bride and just sat reading that. But I'm not always in the mood for Ready Player One because I think it's quite a specific genre. Like, it requires me to be in quite a specific mood. So I think I'm also going to start the Atlas 6. So I've owned the Atlas 6 for a very long time. I have the beautiful indie version of it, and I've had it a long time, and I've put it off and put it off and put it off because I've read a couple of Dark Academias and I didn't like them. I don't like The Secret History by Donna Tartt at all. And I think the Atlas 6, it's definitely not the same as that, but I think it is reminiscent of that in a lot of ways from what people have said. So I am very nervous to go into this. The reason I'm mentioning this now alongside Ready Player One is because obviously I'm listening to Ready Player One on audio. I think I'm also going to switch between physical and audio for the Atlas 6. I kind of want to read it physically, but because I've got such a nice copy, I don't really want to read that copy, but I don't want to buy another copy because what if I don't like it and then I'm stuck with 2 copies. So I do have the audiobook for it. So I think I'm going to listen to the Atlas 6. So I'll have 2 audiobooks to switch between depending on what I'm in the mood for. But at the minute I'm in the mood for the Atlas 6. So I'm just going to do like a little bit of cleaning and stuff and listen to the Atlas 6. And then I'll pop back in when I've finished either, or when I've got something to say about either Ready Player One or the Atlas 6. Hello everyone. Please excuse the hair. I've just took out my heatless curls, but I've not like brushed them out or sorted them yet. I'm just letting them sit. Anyway, I am now about 3/4 of the way through the Atlas 6 and it's kind of gone downhill, I can't lie. I was really enjoying it. I'd say like the first third of the book I like really enjoyed. I was loving the vibes, I was loving the idea of like the competition and getting to know all the characters even though they're not very likeable. I think it's written in a way where you kind of root for them anyway even though they're not very likeable people. And as I said, the competition element was really intriguing me. And just the whole general setup and the vibes were great. But we've not really focused that much on the competition. Like, there's just not much happening. There's just a lot of talk. They just keep talking about everything in really convoluted, complicated ways for no reason. And it's like, why? You've got this premise where we've got this competition and it sounds amazing and like I want to read about that. I don't really want to just read about them sat around talking or like who's attracted to who and whatever. Like, I don't really care. Either give me a fully fledged romance or just don't bother. Like, I'm just not bothered about, as I said, like who finds who attractive and stuff. Like, either give me a romance with some stakes or leave the romance and focus on the competition. And the book's not really doing either. Like, yes, the book is about the competition and they're talking a lot about what'll happen and like who they want to eliminate and blah 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 blah, but it's just talk. There's not actually anything happening. I'm going to try and finish it today. I don't necessarily think I'll be carrying on with the series. I don't hate the book by any means. It's currently sitting at about like a 2.5 or a 3. I was definitely getting like 4, maybe even higher star vibes at the beginning, but as I said, it's just not really lived up to the premise and really lived up to kind of the setup that it had at the beginning. But I will get back to you later once I've finished. I'm just gonna carry on listening to it on audio now while I do a few bits around the house, and yeah, I'll get back to you later when I've finished it and tell you my final thoughts. I have now finished the Atlas 6. This kind of went downhill. So I think I mentioned at the beginning I was really enjoying this. It was giving 4-star vibes, and then I think I also mentioned in the last clip that it was just going downhill and it ended at the bottom of the hill. I gave this a 2.5, which I'm just so disappointed about because, as I said, it just started off so strong. It was so intriguing. My main problem with this was that the characters didn't do anything. So you've got the premise about this competition where these 6 supposedly very talented, very smart people working together but also not, because only 5 of them can get through. That is a very intriguing premise. And quite near the beginning of the book, there was like a big fight scene, like a task that they had to accomplish, and I was like, wow, they're actually like doing cool things. And then the rest of the book after that, they basically just talked about who was attracted to who, but there was no like actual good romance, which I didn't care. I don't need there to be a romance, but either have some kind of relationship that's actually got some stakes that actually matters, or just don't bother. Like, just leave it at them disliking each other. We don't need like half-baked attraction between them. Like, literally just leave it. The next problem is that when they were talking, the conversations were boring. Like, I didn't even care about what they were saying, because I very much expected this to have like pretentious, convoluted language. It's a dark academia. I get it. I absolutely get it. But the conversations had no substance. They weren't even interesting. If you're going to have characters in this competition sat around talking all day instead of actually doing anything of note, at least make the conversations interesting. But they just weren't. And then my third problem was that these really smart, really talented characters were actually just really boring. And we didn't actually get to see very much of their talents. It sounded like some of them didn't have a clue what their talent was or what they could do with it, which is fine. If they're here to learn about the talents, that's great. But don't set it up that these are like 6 of the best people in the world when they're actually just boring. Like, they're boring. The talents are boring. They don't do anything with them. So yeah, unfortunately, an amazing premise that for me personally just didn't work. Don't get me wrong, I didn't expect this to be an action book. I knew I was going in for a dark academia. Like, I knew it was going to be slower. But there's a difference between a slow-moving academia with some pretentious language and then them just not actually doing anything. Anyway, I've also finished, since we last spoke, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. I finished this one this morning. I finished the Atlas 6 yesterday. Finished this one this morning. And I think I've settled on a 3-star for this one. My main problem here is that we moved between too many characters too often. So we're following the 2 sisters and their 2 daughters, and then there's a few side characters like the partners of the sisters as well. But we've got like the 4 main characters, which isn't too many. Like, I think we could have done 4 points of view, but we shift between them and jump through time for me too often to really delve into any of the topics in this book. I say any, that's not true. So primarily the book is about the differences between the lives of the sisters, because one of them, they're both black. One of them is living as black, one of them is passing as white, by choice. And we see the differences between their lives. Now, I think that part was done well. It was subtle in terms of it wasn't thrown in the face of the reader, the differences, but I think you could definitely pick up on it. I think this book isn't a manual for white people to learn about racism. That's not what the book is trying to be. And I think it did what it was trying to do in that regard very well. I think what I wish there was more of, and what could have bumped this up to maybe like a 4-star. So one of the characters, not one of the main characters, but one of our quite prominent side characters is transgender. And bearing in mind this book is set, well, it's set over quite a big time period, but I think, was he in the section that was set in like the 70s and the 80s? I just think that in the 70s and the 80s, there would be a lot more to say about living as a transgender person. Like, there's enough nowadays in a supposedly tolerant society that transgender people have to deal with. And obviously, I am assuming that would have been even worse because there was even less tolerance than there is now in this time period. And I just don't think that was touched on. Like, it was really skimmed over. Like, we just sat on the surface of that whole situation. And I completely get that that was not a main character, but they were in a relationship with one of the main characters. So I think there was definitely scope there to explore that a little bit more, and also potentially explore the intersectionality between race and being transgender too. And we just didn't really get much of that, or at least I didn't. Maybe it's me missing the intricacies because I got the intricacies of the race discussion. Maybe I'm missing them, but I just don't think that they were necessarily there. But I did give it a 3 stars. It's not that I didn't enjoy this. I don't think it was a book written to be enjoyed anyway. That's not really the point of it. I get that this is a book about the sisters and their race and how that impacts their life. I completely understand. But I think there was room in here to delve into the life of that transgender character a little bit more. And I also get, one last thing, I get that being transgender isn't this character's like personality trait. Like, when I say this, I don't mean that they should just be the transgender character and their only purpose in the story should be to teach us about what it was like to be transgender. Like, I completely get that. But it is mentioned, just not in any depth. So there's 2 more books that I'm going to try and finish for this video. One of them is Ready Player One. I've still not made much more progress on this. I think I'm still on chapter 2. I just ended up putting this one to the side when I was reading the others. I don't really know why, because I did really like the opening of this. I just kind of stopped. So I need to carry on listening to this because I am listening to it on audio. And my physical read at the minute is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So I'm pretty sure I spoke to you. Did I even tell you what Ready Player One is about? It's quite an old book, so I'm assuming people know, but I didn't. Our main character is a young-ish boy at the beginning, living not a good life, living in poverty, having a very difficult upbringing. And there is this competition going on, something to do with a video game, where whoever finds this like Easter egg first in this video game inherits all of the billions and the properties and everything from the man who made the video game, who has now passed away. And the boy in this book plays the video game, and we're gonna see what happens with that, basically. And then I've owned this for a long time, and I've just put it off and off and off, because obviously that's the point of this video, is to read books that are out of my comfort zone. Oh, this is this is literal toilet roll, but like I didn't get it from the bathroom. I didn't get it from the bathroom. It's from a clean roll of toilet roll that was in the living room. No. Anyway, that's my bookmark. This is another Dark Academia. So it's a bit slow getting into, but I think that's just because I've only just read a Dark Academia and it's not my genre. I don't think it's reflective of this book in particular. I have a few, not listening to this one on Spotify because I have it elsewhere. I have a few Spotify listening hours left, so I think I might just listen to 2 or 3 chapters of this just to get me kind of into the swing of it, and then read the rest of it physically. Please excuse numerous things, really. First of all, please excuse that I'm filming this on my phone. My camera's right in front of me. Okay, well, I've started now. I had no idea where my camera was, so we're filming this on the phone. Also, just excuse the sunglasses. My head has been pounding for 3 days now, and I'm quite sick of it. I've been taking paracetamol the whole time, and it's just not touching this stupid headache because of my stupid wisdom tooth. So even though the headaches because of my wisdom tooth light makes it worse, so I am just walking around with sunglasses on, so please excuse that. I'm DNFing Ready Player One. We've got our first DNF of this video. To be honest, I'm quite impressed that in a video reading books out of my comfort zone that we currently are only on 1 DNF. I think that's pretty good going, but I am DNFing Ready Player One. I will do like a full review kind of when my thoughts have settled in my wrap up, but it has too many struggles for me to push through. So the main character is insufferable and really annoying. So that's number 1. Sometimes we can get past that if they're meant to be a bit insufferable and annoying. I'm literally the biggest fan of Magnolia Parks. So, you know, insufferable characters aren't always a deal breaker. But he's really pretentious and insufferable because he knows the lines to loads of film. And then furthermore, as well as him being annoying, the book is written so weirdly. So either I'm in the head of this annoying boy, or it feels like I'm reading a textbook, because holy info dump. Like, oh my days, the info dumps are insane. So we've got an annoying main character and info dumps, which we switch between. Then a character that, to be fair, the main character doesn't like, this side character, uses really homophobic language, the FAG word he uses, not the main character, the side character. And granted, this isn't a character that we're supposed to like, but not because he's homophobic, no. The main character doesn't like the side character. I'm just saying this because I don't actually know anyone's names, by the way, and I don't care. the main character doesn't like this side character because he just doesn't know enough about 80s films. Not because he's a weirdo homophobe. No, just because he doesn't know enough about 80s films. Okay, weirdos. And then I started reading reviews of the book when I started thinking, I don't think I like this. I started reading reviews and everyone says like it just gets worse. It gets quite like more homophobic, very transphobic as well, and also misogynistic, which I started to see just before I DNF'd. I kept reading after the homophobic comment thinking like, is this going to be addressed? Like, you know, is this going to be brought up again with this character later? It hasn't been so far. And we finally met the only main female character of the book. And the first thing he says, bearing in mind that this female character is like really well known for being really smart, really intelligent, really good at gaming. And the first thing he says is, oh, she's so hot. Like, please. And I get that that happens in, you know, contemporary romance books where you see someone and the main characters are like, oh, they're so good looking, like, whatever. I can kind of deal with it in a contemporary romance because they don't know anything else about that person other than their looks and they fall for them later. But in this book, he already knows because she's famous. He already knows, like, how smart she is and stuff. And just the first thing is like, oh, she's hot. Like, please, how have we only got one female main character and the only thing she's good for at this point is being good looking? Like, no, not for me. So we're DNFing. So the last book I'm now reading for this, these sunglasses look ridiculous. I'm so sorry that you've got to look at this, but I just can't. I'm so over this headache. I can't do this anymore. So anyway, the last book I'm reading for this video now is Ninth House, and I'm just halfway through. I'm liking it, but I'm not loving it. It's kind of, I think I'm liking it more than the Atlas 6. It's more consistent than the Atlas 6 was for me. It's currently sitting at around like a 3-star-ish Ninth House. But I am going to carry on reading that one. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. There is a lot of horrible things happening in it. And I wasn't sure how I would kind of deal with that. But anything that's a bit too graphic for me, I just kind of skim read over a couple of paragraphs. So I don't have to read the horrible bits. And I just kind of like know what's happening. But yeah, I've got about just over 200 pages left of that. So hopefully when I get back, because I'm nipping out now, hopefully when I get back I'll be able to read a decent chunk because I do want to finish it and wrap up this video in the next couple of days. But yeah, we've had our first DNF and we've got half a book left to go. So I'll probably just come back to you now when I've finished. Hello everyone, please excuse the appearance. I've been at work all day, so I'm looking a bit dishevelled by now. But I'm just popping on because I have just finished, like 20 minutes ago, I have finished Ninth House. I ended up giving this 3 stars, but it's a complicated one for me because objectively, this is a good book. I think if this is your kind of thing, if you like dark academia that really is quite dark and has a bit of a very gruesome aspect to it, I think you'll really like this. I think it's very well written. I'm not a huge fan of Leigh Bardugo's other books, particularly Shadow and Bone. I don't like them. I think the writing in this is a lot better. It's just not 100% for me. I think we've kind of come to the conclusion with this and Atlas 6 that maybe dark academia just isn't for me, which I always thought it would be because I've always been like quite an academic person. I've always enjoyed like school and uni and stuff. Not always, that's a bit of a stretch, but generally I enjoy the academics. So I thought I would enjoy dark academia, but it's not that I don't enjoy it. Like, I did enjoy parts of this, but I think it's just, it goes over my head. I'm just not smart enough for these kinds of books. It's just very, this and the Atlas 6. But I'd say probably more so this one. It's just very intricate. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to keep track of. And it's just a bit much, I think, for my little brain. But that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.